Hey everyone, I'm Jordan from New St. Andrews College. I'd like to invite you to join us for one of our upcoming prospective student weekends. We have one on March 2nd and 3rd, and another from April 13th to 16th. To learn more and to register your visit, check us out online at nsa.edu. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel
I'm
Jackfruit,
Becca Merkel.
and this is What Have You. Oh, don't worry. This week's episode will not be all about our plastic recyclables.
What?
We're
She's
gonna
already in the non sequitur, so I don't know what you're
tin
talking
cans, Beck. We've covered tin
about.
cans.
Oh, the tin
I'm saying we're
cans
not going to
reference.
cover the
Gosh,
plastics.
That
We're
was
gonna
so
just-
far in my past that I didn't even remember.
So we're
we'd
not
done
covering that again.
No, guys, stay out of it.
And so we're moving on. So what have you
Pressy,
been doing?
except for I have to quickly say you might be wrong because because today it happened. It's a Sunday afternoon, guys. It's bleak. It's January. It's brown. There's nothing like gorgeous right now, weather-wise or landscape-wise. So of course,
say speak for
what
yourself.
happens? Other than Rachel, there's nothing beautiful.
Oh dear.
But the gardening bug hit hard. It hit like, it came like a thunderbolt today. As I was cooking lunch, I was like, oh no, guys, I have to plant seeds. I have to start seeds. I have to plant my garden. Oh no. It was like a real big thing that happened. And the point that I am making right now is that this brings us to plastic water bottles.
And about your technique. I thought you were
I'm
going to
gonna
tell
have to
everyone
go
about
back-
what you did with the hyacinth bulb.
Well, that too, because the gardening bug hit me hard. As soon as lunch was over, I have had this bag of hyacinth bulbs that I didn't get planted in the fall, and it's been really nagging at me. So I was like, it's kind of in a thaw right now. It's not frozen out. The ground is soft. So I was like, I need to just go get those hyacinth bulbs in the ground, and probably they'll bloom. I don't know, but maybe.
More likely than in the basement.
Yeah, definitely more likely than that. So anyway, I went galloping out and had Ben come out and dig me a little quick trench, and I flung a bunch of hyacinth bulbs in the ground, and then I came back in. Well, I found out from this escapade that hyacinth bulbs cause wild skin reactions. I touched my neck and my face, and it was horrible. Like I was having this terrible neck attack from touching the hyacinth bulbs. And so I Googled it, and sure enough, yeah, like wear gloves, guys, when handling hyacinth bulbs.
So,
Oh, my word.
butternut squash has a thing in the enzyme of the peel. It has an enzyme in the peel
yeah.
that was
That
released
affects
when you
you.
peel it.
Yeah.
Well, the first time that I didn't feel like it was the first time, but the first time I really noticed this problem, I peeled a couple butternut squash for a dinner that I was making. And so you're handling the squash where you've peeled it because it's a big awkward thing,
But
so
it kind of stains you yellow.
but weirdly, it feels like you have like a starchy thing on your hand,
Yeah.
like a glue on your hand. Mm-hmm. And I kept washing but this one time, I don't know if these were especially hot butternut squash or what, but my hand was just flaming orange. Like it was just like orange. And so I kept thinking that I had something that needed to get washed off.
Yeah.
Until I realized, I'm like, that is my skin. Like my skin is orange, and it cracked.
Oh no.
And then it was like, it's like if you had painted Elmer's glue on your hand, but it was like a derma peel because it was bright orange, and then it started flaking off like little bits of my skin. So then that made me research And it actually helped me to discover the problem with my other allergy, so it said people who are allergic to that enzyme, it's also found in mango peels, which is funny because...
Oh, I remember in high school, your whole head turned bright red.
Yeah. Well, it was not so much my whole head, but a large section around my mouth because
you look like Ronald McDonald.
Because I cut a mango and where you score it. So when I ate it off of the peel, apparently it got peel enzyme all over my face, which also toasted the skin on my face, and then that sloughed off.
And then she became Ronald McDonald.
And so then I could never figure out how am I allergic to mangoes, because I can eat mangoes and it doesn't bother me. And I would just not really put them on my
skin.
I just assumed for years I had a skin allergy to mango because I could still eat them without it bothering me.
Yeah.
And that maybe it was just if I rubbed a piece of mango on my face, it would turn red. but it wasn't. I think it's the peel.
But
weird. Now since then, I found lots of people have their skin turn orange and fall off after butternut squash.
Rub a hyacinth bulb on your face.
Yeah, I was like, we've got an alternative medicine derma peel plan going on.
No, and I don't even know. I must have just put my whole hand on my neck for a second, because my entire neck was a horrible... I was having this weird itch attack. It was not good. It was stinging, itching, awful, and then up the side of my face by my ear. So I probably did one swath down it.
You remember that I'm allergic to sunscreen, or I was allergic to some components of sunscreen, which we found out when I was little because Mom put sunscreen on me when we were at the lake, and I turned bright red, so she put more sunscreen on me. And I'd be bright red and brighter red. And the assessment was that how are you still getting mango? How are you still getting sunburned with all this sunscreen on you?
Squash on her just to check.
Well, then there was a time in high school I spent the night at someone's house and my face felt really dry, probably different water or whatever, and I used some of my friend's moisturizer. I woke up with, it was one of those gift bags that you blow dry to tighten up. My face was just shrink wrapped overnight with this really...
I don't know why you're talking about a gift basket.
Yes, you do. The ones that you can buy a gift bag and then you put it over a gift basket and you blow dry it, shrink wraps it. It was that effect from a moisturizer. And all of this leads me to...
Oh, my word.
All of this leads me to share with you that at times like Valentine's Day or Christmas or whenever they have these gift baskets of doodads everywhere, of bath bombs and scrubs and... Almond paradise body scrub or any of these things. My husband is always telling me, ooh, I'm going to buy you one of those rash-in-a-baskets. Because it's pretty certain if I used any of that, I would be the rash in a basket.
Which is so funny because you always had that side and I didn't until today with the hyacinth bulb extravaganza.
Well, at least since you had that today, it allowed us to just bring up all of our various ailments.
It's a good thing that we had that time. But the thing is, back to the water bottle. I talked about this last year. I remember speaking of it last year.
You've told us before.
And I remember speaking about it somewhat obscurely and people saying, what? And me being
I feel really clear on what you spoke about.
Mm-hmm. I need to have a picture of that. So maybe I'll
conjure up
get
a
around
picture
to it. But I'm having this big attack of I need to plant tons of herbs and I want to get a whole bunch more different varieties of herbs on my garden, and I'm going to need to start I don't know, half an acre worth of chives.
So out on our property, I need a solid acre of rhubarb.
Yes.
We need why do people think that 1 or 2 rhubarb will do it?
No, it's not enough.
It will not.
Have a bunch of rhubarb in my garden, but when I say a bunch, I mean 3. And that's not enough.
It's not enough. There's rhubarb is something that needs to be farmed. Not
exactly. And I found a bunch in my freezer.
And it's kind of touchy. It's a weird thing because I don't think it's that easy to grow, but grows like
It grows like a weed.
it grows like
if
a
you have
weed
the
when
right
it's happy.
place.
When
Yeah.
and then it grows for like 100 years in the
Yeah.
place where it's
Yeah.
happy. But it is hard
Did
to
you
get
know,
going.
though, this year, and I was really pleased about this, I froze it. Like, I would just go out and whack off a few leaves and chop it and throw it in the freezer.
Not the leaves.
Well, not the leaves, but
I just
whack
felt
off
like we
a
needed
few
to clarify.
leaves.
You said I whack off the leaves and chop it in
yeah,
freezer.
and then you
Becca
throw
likes
away
to
the
poison
leaves.
everyone.
I like to
With
bring
the
out a
toxic
little bit of
leaves.
toxic and
We're building up our endurance.
Don't eat rhubarb leaves,
Yeah, they're
guys.
toxic. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just eat the stems. Anyway, I would chop them up and throw them in the freezer, and that actually was really nice because I had, frozen rhubarb in the winter, and I felt like,
And then, after
And
I did that,
then-
I had frozen rhubarb. It's just the brightness of a happy
like
weather.
my magic trick.
Yeah,
that
but
I
it's
did.
like a happy weather taste. Like rhubarb is so bright
Yeah.
and cheerful and wonderful.
Yeah, and I made it for a wedding that I had to take
One time.
I had to take a cobbler to, and so I made
Yeah.
a rhubarb. I was like, hey,
One
I have
time-
rhubarb in there.
One time I did a pork roast. I think it was Jamie Oliver. It was a pork roast that was on rhubarb stalks.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah. It was interesting. It was different. I remember thinking that there was room for improvement, like that but I feel like there was maybe some brown sugar and like pancetta on top of the pork roast.
Interesting.
Like, so then you end up with this cooked rhubarb, but in a savory application instead of a sweet one.
That's totally interesting.
It was actually good though. I mean, yeah.
That reminds me that
was a
today
long time ago
I
I did
made
that.
a roasted cauliflower as a side for our lunch that was stupidly good. It was like one of those ones that takes you into places where you're like, actually I didn't know rhubarb could be this delicious, but lots of paprika.
I think you're talking about cauliflower.
What did I say? Rhubarb?
Yeah,
I'm still on the rhubarb. Paprika and
using
rhubarb.
them interchangeably.
Guys,
They're basically the same.
if you
rhubarb
want
and
to try
cauliflower.
roasted rhubarb with paprika, be my guest. But let's pretend I didn't recommend it.
Oh, I bet that. But I bet that was good.
Cauliflower. No, it was so good. And Parmesan.
So you
Like
know what
paprika
throws
and
me off?
Parmesan.
Where did you
So
find this
good.
recipe?
I don't know. But it was salt, pepper, garlic, olive oil, paprika.
Was it roasted whole?
in
or
florets.
in florets, okay.
And then you do like Parmesan on it, roasted a little bit more. Oh my word. It was so good.
So the thing, that's funny. I love.
Well, we shouldn't talk about cauliflower and rhubarb close together because, there we are. Now we've recommended
we've done
that.
it.
Maybe we could try it. Maybe there's a thing there.
I don't think so. I think it would
A
be.
smoothie. A paprika
I think
rhubarb
that would be a
smoothie.
gross combination. It doesn't sound good to me.
Something about it.
Do you remember
sounds a
when
little
roasting
ominous.
whole heads of garlic came into vogue?
I do.
And it's
I do.
delicious.
It is delicious.
So how did that come into vogue and then go back out?
I don't know.
Isn't that weird how that happens?
Do you want to speak of something that came into vogue? This is something we were talking about as we were preparing lunch today, in fact, as I was chopping my cauliflower. Ben and I remembered how when we were younger, people would say things like, "Don't have a cow, man." And our kids were like, "You said what?" And we
Don't
were like,
have a cow.
we
It's
were like,
totally rad.
"Have you not heard the phrase,
Never?
don't have a cow?" And they were like, "What is a cow? What do you mean?"
I thought you were still talking about food trends. Luke always
No,
refers.
this was a straight up linguistic trend.
Yeah, Luke always refers to sun-dried tomatoes as the child star of the 90s.
That and pesto.
And then he's like, and then after that we got to Chipotle chilies, where it was always like, we're always having a Chipotle
I
sauce.
feel like that was more like 2007 by the time
That
we
was
got
later,
to
but we
Chipotle's.
did sun-dried tomatoes was all the rage, and pesto, but it was at the same time as we were all like finding out that there were pine nuts. Like
Wow.
before then,
Yeah.
you didn't know these things were not. I mean, we
Pine
live in a
nuts
small
were
town,
like the ultimate exotic food group.
and then goat cheese, and we're all like, goats make cheese.
Pines make nuts?
What? This is crazy out there.
Oh, my word.
Things got crazy.
Gosh.
Yeah. Anyways, that is funny. I always wonder what are the things that we're going to find out later. One of my favorite. So because I do crafty things and in cooking too, it doesn't really matter what, because you do things. I periodically get really tickled by thinking of, will my kids be like, when Mom was in that phase where she was
Like the back in the toll painted angel phase
yes,
with
like,
Spanish moss
yes, yeah, exactly. Like, remember when Mom was making those puffy chintz baskets?
hair? Or those styrofoam wreaths with the calico squares poked into it?
Yeah, but like, what is it that my kids, or like when they're like,
Yeah.
in their basket weaving phase. When
Yeah, back in
Mom
that
was
day.
still into making baskets, and it's
Yeah.
so funny to see your life from someone else's
It's true.
vantage point.
It's true.
Her
Oh, my word.
when roasting veggies was all the rage for Mom. The thing that you said about cauliflower, though.
Not the rhubarb, guys. The cauliflower.
A while ago. I bought the cookbook, The Essentials of Italian Cuisine by Marcella Hazan.
Okay.
Because it had come to my attention that Marcella Hazan is like the Italian Julia Child. Like, she's the one who...
One you should be aware of.
Well, I should be aware of her, but also she was like the one who did the work of compiling the Italian cuisine and recipes and how things were done. She was an expert. So I just got that cookbook and read through it. It's a big fat one. And
Is it good?
But the real thing that I couldn't get over, and I have not done it, I have not made these dishes yet, but like cauliflower is what reminded me of it. It is cooked so much more than we would ever think to cook a cauliflower. Like, these recipes are like boiling a cauliflower for like an hour in a pot with salted water, then slicing it and putting it in a baking dish with like cream and butter and cheese and breadcrumbs. And no doubt it would be tasty at the end of that, but I'm just not sure I can get on board with that much processing of a cauliflower. Like, when you can eat it raw, do we need to see it through into a gratin?
I don't know. It probably goes to a sort of gelatinous substance.
It's interesting. I should do it sometime, because there was a lot of vegetables that you think you knew how to cook, but that these recipes were not nearly as straightforward.
We had in our garden last year these Italian beans that the seeds were given to us by our favorite winemaker, Gino, down in Walla Walla, but he had gotten the seeds from Italy, I think. And I can't remember what they're called, but it starts with a B. And bacchiccia. I think they're bacchiccia beans. Anyway, so we grew them, and you eat them like normal beans, but he was saying just like steam them, then put tons of olive oil on it. He was like, more olive oil than you think you ought to put on. And then save the olive oil from the beans and use that to make a salad dressing or something. Unbelievable. Like, that was so good. And the beans were amazing. Like, they were really good. But the olive oil that you kind of like toss it all in, and then you save the olive oil that sort of runs off of those bacchiccia beans, it was
the thing.
It was good. It was really good.
I believe you.
And it just makes you realize, there's those little, I don't know. There's more than one way, Rach. More than one.
I know. I think that's the thing that struck me, is I hadn't thought of the ways of preparing cauliflower. Yeah. Really running the gamut from eating it raw to
and
like
right
a
now,
4-hour
don't
preparation.
You feel like cauliflower is just a little bit too hip at the moment with all the cauliflower rice recipes everywhere?
No.
I feel dubious about most of them.
Every time we have yellow or purple cauliflower, I buy it up on the principle of the thing. When I go to Winco and there's yellow or purple. I like.
So this is where I reveal that I've never once seen a purple cauliflower in Winco. Like, is that because you got there first and bought it all?
I guess so, but every once in a while they bring in the rainbow cauliflowers and I buy them up. But no, I don't really care that cauliflower is popular right now, because
I just feel like people are doing things with it that are just
no.
not,
Did you see that? Wasn't it? Is it Salisbury
good.
in England that was getting made fun of because they were selling the cauliflower steak? were trying to make like an entree version for vegetarians, but they were packaging in like shrink wrapped things a thick slice of cauliflower as though it was a steak. But I like cauliflower
Did
rice.
you see that? Okay, there was a thing that people were posting about jackfruit. Have you seen jackfruit?
I don't think so.
It claims to be a perfect imitation of pulled pork.
No.
Yes, it does. And I just, part of me is so disgusted.
So where
and
do you
part of me
purchase
wants
a
to know.
jackfruit?
They can be huge. They're like a watermelon. And it said if you buy them ripe,
That is
and
not cool.
not only that, it says that when you look at a whole big jackfruit that's like the size of a watermelon, it smells of decay. So doesn't that sound like a promising start? But if you
that's that one.
if you get it ripe, it's like goopy gross inside. It looks really gross. But it said the inside, when it's ripe, it's sweet. But if it's unripe, you can kind of cut it into sort of shreds and cook it like a meat substitute. And they said you can't tell the difference between that and pulled pork. And part of me wanted to be like, wanna bet?
I thought the one that you say is something known as there is a fruit that I can't remember the name of it, but it starts with the
With a jack?
not the jack, with a D of some kind that is like nasty, smelly.
This, I have to say, the pan full of it with barbecue sauce on it looked like pulled pork.
Well, I just Googled it to see a picture, and it does say there's today.com. It's a healthy and sustainable vegan meat replacement.
It's horrid. Isn't that horrid? Horrid.
I might be interested, though. I might
Me
have
too.
to know.
I'm
I
like
might have
a big jumbo wodge of
Where in Moscow will sell us a jackfruit so that we can
that's
find
gonna
out?
smell like decay, but push past that.
Because you know you want to.
It'll be amazing.
That's interesting.
It's kind
Okay.
of like when you add fish sauce to something. It smells so
Fish
ominous.
sauce. The thing I can't get over with fish sauce is it does add a lot to recipes.
Yeah, it does.
It's great,
but it
umami.
smells
The
disgusting.
part that I can't deal with fish sauce is that there's no way of opening the bottle without getting it on your hands. Because at least my fish sauces have always struggled to stay closed or sealed correctly.
That's
So-
odd that you say that because mine always has a broken lid on the top.
so I'm always like, you have to touch the lid more than I want to touch the lid. And then having touched it, you've embedded
fishy
the
smells,
fish smell
yeah.
on your fingers, which you don't want on your fingers.
I made smoked salmon souffles for dinner the other night. Guess what? It was sick. It was not at all a good idea. Well, it was. So
sounds
I served
delicious.
up these souffles, and everyone was like, "Ooh, this looks fun!" And we all took a bite, and we're like,
Oh, Mom.
And yeah, it's like, wow. And
You
then,
did
and
that,
then-
Mom.
And Judah, poor thing, he was off doing a weightlifting thing, and so he wasn't there at dinner, and we had saved it for him. And of course, a souffle is never
It's not
something
known for its
for
staying
its
quality.
staying power. But then he came home and ate it. But then the next day he was like, "Hey, Mom, what was that?" He's like, "What was that dinner last night?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was gross." And he was like, yeah. Oh boy.
Whoops.
It was not one of my successes, guys.
Food
it was
50,
like
Food
it was not
52
good.
drew me in again, and I made lemon butter noodles from Food 52.
Butter noodles.
Lemon butter noodles.
Is it just a noodle with lemon and
Yeah,
butter?
exactly that. Although I did feel like it was one of those ones that was like, I bet I should have this up my sleeve. You know, like
Okay.
if this is, because what you do is melt some butter in a pan, and then you crunch up angel hair pasta and throw it in the butter.
These are not homemade noodles.
No.
Okay.
Throw it in the... No, this is a speedy weedy way to make a noodle. You throw angel hair pasta into the butter.
Yeah.
And then hot chicken stock. Like...
Okay.
And then you cover it and let it simmer, and it cooks the noodles
Okay.
in the butter and chicken broth.
Right.
And then...
That sounds delicious.
And then
so
you
far.
squeeze fresh lemons into it.
Okay.
and pepper. Oh, you put pepper in it before it boils. And that's it. But they were really good. It's like a noodle cooked like risotto.
Okay.
Like, because it cooks in it and it's starchy and it's like, so
Yeah.
it makes its own, it thickens the sauce.
Yeah.
So
Sounds really good.
it was, but it's like done in 10 minutes. It's like from zero to hot noodle situation in 10 minutes is something that I felt like I needed to be able to do. So
Yeah,
I
sounds
tried
great.
it. It was worth doing.
That's great.
Also, I think it cost like
42 cents.
maybe,
Well,
generously speaking.
let me
cheap.
Let me steer everyone away from the souffles. And it's funny because I actually really like a souffle, especially with a nice, like, the right kind of salad and a souffle. Like, that's just a really nice dinner. And I was like, oh, the kids would love souffles. I haven't done that really for the kids. Like, I'll sometimes do it for Ben and I if it's just the two of us for dinner. But the addition of smoked salmon.
Well, it just lend it too much of an earthy
Well,
note.
And then I noticed that the recipe that I was using, which I had never used before, was for a freezable souffle. So that should tell you already that something's amiss.
Gone wrong.
Something is amiss. And it had a lot of cream cheese in it. And then, so it was sort of like, oh, dear. And so you've got
basically
cream
like
cheese.
a smoked salmon dip in an egg bake. All you
was
needed
not
was a crudité to get you through that.
Was not good.
So we needed to talk about Riot and the dance.
Yes, guys.
That's what we
right
meant
in
to
the
talk
dance.
about.
Yeah.
This is a very fun project that lots of people we are related
Know and
to
love.
and know have been involved in. And it's releasing in theaters nationwide on the 19th, right?
Yes.
So in
March,
like 600.
March 19th. We should
March.
specify that.
In like what is it, like 600 theaters? So there might not be one.
700 something.
Whatever,
Anyway.
you have to search if it's near you. But the exciting thing about it is it's a nature, how do they
Documentary.
describe it?
It's just
It's
a
a
nature doc.
documentary about nature, but from a perspective of creation.
Yeah.
So what their goal was, and it's really fun. So our Uncle Gordon is the, what is he? The star of the show, sort of. He's the man who is
He's
talking.
the David Attenborough.
Yeah,
Except
yeah,
for that he's not.
Except for that he's the Gordon. And I have to say about Uncle Gordon that I remember as a child, like I have fond memories of holding his snakes, like big snakes. He had pet snakes.
Yeah.
Pegasus rattling her ice cubes in here.
Just a little diet Dr.
Yeah,
Pepper, guys.
yeah. So he had. I remember holding his snakes. What did he have? Like rubber boas or
He always had
stuff.
snakes, yeah.
So when I was little, I remember the feeling of holding the snake and having the snake go up your sleeve and like
Yeah.
come down your back, the back of your shirt.
I remember that.
I remember this, and at some point, I lost my enthusiasm. Like it's one of these really weird, like out of body things, where I remember thinking that was super cool, but I no longer would want to have anything to do with it. Like I remember it as a cool move, but I would not want that now.
No.
All the same, Uncle Gordon has always been really that way. Very into nature, into everything, just all about it. And so this is super fun. So our brother's been involved in it. They filmed all around.
Cousin did a lot of filming.
Cousin did a lot of the, Gordon's son, Dane, filmed a lot of it. It's really beautiful.
It actually is really beautiful. Like the footage is beautiful.
It's so fun and lovely.
And it's fun because like when you watch Planet Earth
we
or
have to
something
say
with your
we have to
kids-
agree that we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it even though it's not released yet.
Yeah, but I just mean like when like we would watch Planet Earth with our kids. The whole time you're like, did you hear what he said, kids?
He's
Did you hear how
lying to
that
you.
was stupid? That
This was not
good.
chance that made this happen.
Did you hear how silly that was?
Do you think that's true? No, we don't think that's true. So
And so it's really
they're
fun.
like, did you notice the pernicious lies? Did you? While we were watching, and which is such a bummer when it comes from the perspective of watching the glory of creation and like the things that happen in creation, or some like when we were watching, is it Frozen Planet? Some where I just felt like that
tragic.
poor polar
Tragic.
bear. You just think all nature is groaning. You know what I mean? Like everything is groaning under the weight of sin because it was so sad. And it's off happening in the boonies where no one sees it, you know, except for a camera happened to be there to see the poor mangled polar bear.
Yeah.
That's
I'm sorry about my heater, guys.
So
we need to fix it, but we haven't yet.
But we don't care that much.
It's cold. No, but the thing is that's really fun is to have a creation documentary or a nature documentary where you don't have to do that. You don't have to be like,
and
hey.
we should say that their intention, and this is what we loved, is that they were just like, you know, we're not interested in arguing with evolution. We're going to just assume creation. We know creation, and then we're just going to glory in the creator while we look at creation instead of acting like this thing disproves this part of evolution.
Well, it's like
that's I'm not trying to say that's a thing they shouldn't do ever. It's just not.
Oftentimes Christians spend so much time playing defense that they never go play offense.
They don't go get on the offense. And this is actually something that's a slogan in my life a lot of the times. I'm like, I'm not fighting for the defense, I'm fighting for the offense. Like it's not about trying to defend the faith
just
all the time.
Just assume
it.
the truth of it and
yes.
And just move from there.
And then go forth. And sometimes Christians who are really, really discouraged all the time are discouraged because they're spending all their time on trying to be the defense when they were called to the offense.
But this is kind of a version of, remember years ago, I remember us laughing and Nate saying he wants to have a museum somewhere where all the public school, field trips have to tell their students, don't read the signs.
Don't read the signs. They're full of lies.
Because that's what Christians are always doing that. We go to every museum.
We're like, the fossil is neat. What they're saying otherwise is a big fat lie.
we spend all our time just qualifying everything. And it's like, why don't Christians do something?
Wasn't it Nate who had Rory was it in the Smithsonian? Where Rory got the giggles super hard and just couldn't even get a grip on himself, which is very funny because Rory is not. It just added something to the thing
that it was him. Yeah.
That it was Rory, but he was just dying because it was some big cube of fossil. Like they had a huge, it was a large pile of fossil.
Yeah.
That included the bones from a bunch of animals that were not supposed to have all lived at the same time. So they're all in one little solid brick of fossil. And then they had their little plaque on it that explained how this came to pass. Was that there was a watering hole and that there was a severe drought. And so animals came from a long way away to the watering hole where they died of thirst, or they died
over multiple generations.
And then several thousand years later, a whole nother wave of animals came and died at the same watering hole. And then the next wave died at the watering hole for millions of years. They said that this watering hole was just collecting carcasses for millions of years. And that was how all of the bones ended up there together.
Which is also
in
awesome
a jumble because they had to have died over millions of years.
The other part that's so good about that, though, is that let's say a squirrel dies in your backyard. It doesn't become a fossil.
Well, that's one thing that doesn't do.
It takes a particular kind of event to create a fossil.
A fossil is a situational phenomenon.
When the robin goes down, it doesn't fossilize.
It's so funny. And they're acting like it was this enormous cube of animal remnants that should not have been fossilized together.
It was kind of like it was somehow embedded in their DNA to go to the watering hole even long after the watering hole had dried up.
The watering hole was no longer full of water, but people were still going there in case it was. Yeah, not people, yes. The animals.
Because they knew.
And then dying of their thirst on top of the other animal bones. It just was the dumbest thing. And it's sort of we've always laughed about every region in the world had a bad local flood.
This is okay. I want somebody to do this. All right,
Just
listeners.
overlay the local flood.
Yeah, if you could just go around and survey geologists and find out how was your local topography formed.
There was major
There was a
local flooding.
Our particular region, actually the entire Northwest, I think they say was the Missoula flood. But it was a big flood, but it was still a local flood.
Just a local flood that's big enough to
carve
make out some
major
massive canyons and
so what I want somebody
so
to do
dumb.
is go around and compile a sort of overlay of local floods.
And pretty soon you might start to see
You might notice a pattern.
Something close to a worldwide flood
Something
happened.
like a lot of local floods at the same time. Shockingly.
It is really weird
to
because
happen.
so we live in this area with all these beautiful rolling hills, but the rolling hills we had fissure volcanoes, which is like volcanoes, like a grid of volcanoes, that some local flooding caused the offsetting of all these fissure volcanoes
Right.
that caused the groundwork of all of these beautiful hills, which then there was also this
Silt.
little local flood. Like, really, nobody, like, we've lived through floods, right? Like, there have been major flooding. But in times when there was major flooding, it was never like, guess what? We have a new canyon.
And
Oh, man.
volcanoes.
Oh,
Volcanoes
look,
everywhere.
it's spontaneous volcanoes. And there's now we have the Snake River Canyon. And we had like the Hell's Canyon and Snake River, which is near here, is an enormous canyon.
Yeah,
like
it's
Hell's
huge.
Canyon's deeper than the Grand Canyon, but it's narrower and has water at the bottom. But it is not a wee thing that got produced. Anyways, that's just one of the things that's funny is that
I just want somebody to compile the local floods all onto one map. I just feel like it would
pretty
be
sure there'd be
enlightening.
some info there.
It would be enlightening.
Yeah.
Because anytime you fly, I mean, when you're in the plane and you're looking down at the landscape, it was obviously caused by water.
Yeah, you're like, well, there was a major thing that happened there.
Yeah, and you just remember, like, when you're a kid and you're playing with sand on the, on the beach and you're dumping a bucket. You know, like, how it makes, like, little ripples and canyons and you can carve out gorges and make little hills. And then when you're up above it looking from the plane down, it's like you see that. It's like, it's as if there was a huge bucket of water that was poured out.
One of those
all over
things
right
that
here.
isn't Ben always says, it's almost as if a greater
Almost.
power was at work.
Almost as if God was doing
For a
something.
moment there, I started to think there might be a God. So funny. Anyways, we
The Riot in the
suggest
Dance.
that you go see Riot in the Dance. It's
You
beautiful.
totally should.
It's not an argument for creation. It's a celebration of
Yeah,
creation.
it
It's
just assumes it. And it's beautiful footage of animals and it's fun to listen to a Christian biologist
enjoying
talk
it.
about it. So yeah, you should. We'll put up a link to the trailer for it.
Right. They
And-
always say, I'm trying to pull this up now so I can say it because I love it. That is, whoops. It's not being handy of me. I'm doing it wrong while I'm trying to
Would you
find
like me
them.
to kind of like fill in with a little
Yeah,
ad lib?
do a little
Little
okay.
ad-lib
The
something.
greatest artist in the history of history is showing his work right now and forevermore.
Yeah.
Take a look, and then they have it's really
just
delightful.
fantastic.
It's fun, and you can go like the Facebook page Riot in the Dance.
And they filmed all over the world, like
They were they
Sri
did.
Lanka and all over the States. Anyway, there's just some beautiful footage of animals and creation. It's gorgeous. So everyone should definitely go see that. It's very fun.
Yes, absolutely do. That's what we recommend.
And we'll put up a trailer for it.
Yes, we will.
Anyway,
So Becca, tips. Have your tips.
Tips. So I was saying that I feel like Rachel should tell us if you were going to look at Etsy or go to an estate sale or a garage sale or a thrift store, what would you be looking for? What is the thing?
The reason that I love garage sales and estate sales, although I love those less, but garage sales
estate sales?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't like that as much because it's often a reveal of sad endings. It's often kind of like it's a bummer that nobody wanted this, or that
Yeah,
it's just kind of not a. I don't love those. We had a friend who came when he came to NSA for college. A friend in Oregon gave him an old hearse. And that was the vehicle that he had to get here.
I forgot about that.
And it had a bumper sticker that said "Got Jesus," like the "Got Milk" but "Got Jesus." So it was this old hearse with like dwindly curtains on the side of it, like the curtains. So it was like a ramshackle hearse. And then he rolls into town, and I remember this because it was so stunning. There was an estate sale, and I had gone to the estate sale, and he came, I guess, looking for furniture or something, but he parked right in front of the house. And it unsettled everyone quite a bit. Like, what? The hearse is here? We shouldn't be here. Why am I shopping in the cupboards? Get me out of this place. Anyways, so I don't like those as much, but I like thrift stores, and I like the fun of shopping all times and all places at one time. Like, you don't know, like, so the things that really get me, I love restaurantware dishes, but I try to resist the random bits and bobs right now because I actually just need the I have enough people. Yeah. Every night is 9 people. I'm not going to do something with 3 little teacups or, like I'm trying to stick with the bigger goals of dishes.
Can I just insert that I bought a set of like 8 little dessert plates of a restaurantware that is to me like the ultimate platonic form of all dishes. And I can't find anything else. All I have is like 8 bread plates.
What brand is it?
I can't remember. It was made in England. It's a restaurantware, like super durable vitreous china. It's got the most fabulous border around it. This kind of aqua with this little. It's like yours is forest green. Mine is like aqua, and I can't find the matching plates.
So I found a lot of those old restaurantware companies use some of the same designs. So like there were a lot of designs that came out similar. The one that I have a lot of plates of is the Shenango green something or other. Yeah. But then I also have some Pyrex plates, like the Pyrex with the bluegrass is what it's called. It's a thick like teal border, and there's some that's
those are cute.
Red. Those are cute. I like those, but I don't use them normally as the dinner table. They're a little smaller, and I don't have enough for all of us. So we have the Shenango. I love that. So I always look at the dishes. But I'm kind of avoiding, unless it's something I really needed. I don't just want to accumulate. Part of that is also the pottery thing. And we have a lot of pottery coming in the house all the time. But I love restaurantware. I always look at fabric. I have a major soft spot for funky fabrics that you could not currently find. Yeah. This is because I love quilts, but I don't love quilts that look like you went and bought a line of fabric and made the quilt. Right. The spirit of the quilt that I love is the quilt that was a byproduct of a busy life. Yeah. Like this quilt happened because there was a whole lot of other stuff happening, which is why this quilt happened. Yeah. And I always think that I want to attain that in quilting, and I'm pretty sure that I'm losing that. The window is closing for me to be an excellent quilter, but doesn't keep me from buying weird 70s and 80s prints. I have a large collection of funky vintage fabric that I buy. And then so there's that. And then the I've already said that I love the Tupperware bowls. And we had a listener who sent me a green Tupperware bowl. That's pretty awesome. We have the best listener, apparently. But also then my mother-in-law, she's great at thrifting, and she's in the Chicago area, so she has a much bigger base scope to look for. Yeah, she sent me 2 of the yellow ones for my birthday that she'd found around. And so now I have a stack of I could still use more, but it's a stack of those fix and mix bowls on top of my shelf in my kitchen. I have a stack of, because I have a pink one and a blue one and then green and 2 yellows. And it's a very cute big stack of Tupperware bowls. And then that little yellow Tupperware colander that mom always had?
With a handle, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found one of those once and snapped it up. And then just the other day I found one in a really pale aqua that's bigger.
Oh.
Like a bigger Tupperware. So I
you're
don't go
on
for the real
Tupperware quest.
Weirdly, I don't like the Tupperware that's like made to fit a ham or those sorts of Tupperwares. It's just the bowl that I like to use for bread mixing. And I do like the... If I saw the old Tupperware measuring spoons that we used to have, I would buy those up. I have...
The kind of rounded edge rectangles? Those ones?
Like the thick plastic. I want those. We had the green, and I would like some of those.
Funny.
But then I found I did find a measuring cup set of the ones like we used to have in green also, but they're white, the ones I have.
So I think we're catching that when you are looking in thrift stores, you are looking in different decades than I'm looking from.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that I think part of the reason I like it is I'm not just looking for one thing. It's just, I'm looking, those are things that I always check for. Like I always check, but I'm open to the spirit moving me on all manner of things. So like furniture would not be that era really that I was in, like, kind of.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, it depends. Yeah, that's cool.
So what do you go
That's festive. Well, you know what? Honestly, the only time I really started collecting stuff was when we were living in England. And it was English stuff, and now I can't get it. So, that's a pain. So, darn it.
So, a long time ago I used to collect...
No, I started getting those little stoneware Crocs, and they blessed me a lot. So
yeah, those are cute.
I started buying Oxford Marmalade Crocs, and so I have a bunch of those, but then that kind of led to little hilarious potted meat stoneware Crocs. So they're all kind of 19th century stoneware, and I love the vintage, like the advertising. And I have some that say these outrageous things like potted meats, which is like, what is a potted meat? That seems so dark.
It might be smoked salmon for your next
But
souffle.
then one I don't exactly. And one that I don't have, but I always meant to grab one, was bloater paste.
Yeah, do you have gentleman's relish?
I don't have gentleman's relish. I don't have bloater paste, but I have like potted hams and meats.
Yeah,
and
those are cute.
Ginger beer.
I don't collect anything that way so much.
I started collecting Dartmouth pottery when we were in England. The green Dartmouth pottery that was gorgeous, and I loved it. But yeah, here I don't really have, other than my constant quest for more of that restaurant wear. But it's funny.
I used to collect the
printed
tablecloths from
Me too.
the 50s.
I have a stack of those.
And I still have some, but I got rid of a lot of them because I was using them for fabric or for whatever, but they're not the right size for the table I ever need. They're always like barely not square.
Small. They're not quite square, and they're basically meant for a card table.
But why are they not square is a problem I could never figure out, because they apparently didn't think of putting a too small of a tablecloth on sideways to be diagonal in the middle then.
Yeah, because it never.
But that was like the only way that I could use those.
But they are very cute. I love those printed tablecloths, especially because that is a kind of cotton fabric that is very hard to come by right now. Like, it's a heavy, super durable, really soft, beautiful cotton fabric.
Do you remember the napkins we had as kids that were that, like, slinky cotton feeling? With the little fringe?
Oh, yeah.
They were all different colors?
Different colors.
So I found some of those at a thrift store once.
Oh, man.
And when I found them, I was like, what? Nostalgia, like I bought them and I have them in my fabric. But then that has prompted me to think I need to weave napkins.
Oh, my word. Look at you.
Well,
see, okay.
Don't look at me. I'm not doing it.
This happened in the comments of our what have you Facebook posts.
What did?
I was remembering that I duplicated the chicken fabric that was our great grandma's apron. Do you remember this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we had this apron.
You also sewed a doll bathrobe.
Well, see, this is the problem, is that we had this apron, and we had a whole bunch of my great grandma's aprons, and some of them were very stylish cocktail aprons, and this one was very homely. It was kind of a farm wife apron, not chic, and it had little chickens all over it. It was the best one. So whenever we played dress ups, though, it was not quite it. It was just never quite. So I wanted to cut it up and make it into, apparently, I don't remember this part. What was it? A bathrobe for a stuffed animal?
I wonder if I have it. No, I think it was it. I might still have it in my
Anyway,
trunk.
it was
like a bathrobe.
I talked Mom into letting me cut it up, and she let me because it was not the most.
It was
chic.
wearing out.
Yeah, it was not the most chic.
I don't think it was its.
Then I forgot about that crime against humanity that I had committed, and then it was much later when I probably did that when I was like 11 or 12, and then when I was married
It should be
with
said
children, I was at Rachel's house and I saw up in her scrap fabric bin a corner of that fabric sticking out, and I was like, oh, it's that old apron. And she said, no, it's that one that you made a doll bathrobe out of. I was like, what? And I pulled it out, and it was this little shard of fabric.
Did I give you the doll bathrobe?
Well, no, it was just a little scrap of fabric. So I took it home.
Okay.
And I totally copied it, like painstakingly copied this chicken fabric. And it is the cutest fabric.
Cute.
And I duplicated it. And I made it into an apron for my daughter for a birthday present when she was little. Because I was like, there's my atonement apron. I duplicated the fabric. But it is really hilarious fabric. And I feel like I need to do something else with it.
We should clarify, though, that our great-grandma, when you say that Mom let you cut up our great-grandma's apron, should also be said that there was so much that we had from our great-grandma.
Oh, yeah,
we had all of her old slips, which were an amazing amount.
Gloves.
Hats, gloves. There's her shoes are in the family.
Fur coats.
We had like fur coats and wool suits and dresses
like
and gowns.
piece.
Yeah, like this was one rundown apron.
It was a rundown apron, and it was far less chic than the rest of her stuff. Like the rest of her stuff would be like, remember that we had like a very flapper bathrobe. It was like apricot silk with fringe.
With major tassels.
Multiple layers of fringe.
But the problem with that one was that the silk had run the course of life and was ripping into big. It was like a crepe, like a crepey silk.
I loved that one. Anyway, so the apron didn't have kind of the glamour, and so I cut it up, and then later I regretted my actions and I duplicated it. Anyway, I should do something with that fabric. It is really a groovy fabric.
Why don't you get some printed, and then we can do a chicken fabric pot holder giveaway.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Guys, we'll do it.
We've committed ourselves now.
Now we're going to have to run some sort of a raffle for the chicken fabric.
I've thought that we should start doing giveaways because we have too many random things that we ought to give away. But probably we're overdoing our time now.
Probably. Because here we are. Yeah, we are.
Yep,
well,
we are.
Gotta go.
So until next time, enjoy your
have fun, guys.
Life.
Plant some seeds.
Get some rashes.
Get a rash.
If you
touch your bulbs of hyacinth, wear a glove.
Do not then touch your own neck.
Don't rub mangoes on your face.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.